to make two really quick announcements. One is that the restrooms are out of operation, and so we've been asked to use the bathrooms at Friendship Park. And there is a flashlight conveniently placed on the piano if anyone needs to do that. I also just want to let the public know that we are going to swap item 9B, which is the property on Calpella Street. We're going to see that first, because we are likely going to have a lot of input on the item regarding the water tower. So I just want to give you a heads up if you're spacing your using. Okay, Jesse, can I please get a roll call?
Yes. Let's see. Chair Mandel.
Here.
Vice Chair Lopez.
Here.
Review Board Member Sanders.
Here.
And Review Board Member Herbert. Here. Thank you. And for the record, we also have the staff members present, myself, Jesse Waldman, and our two for Mendocino County Planning and Building Services, also acting as the Review Board Secretary. We also have Liam Crowley, a planner, two also for Mendocino County, as well as Senior Planner Mark Pfizer for Mendocino County.
Great, thank you. And did we have a determination of legal notice?
We have properly noticed for this hearing.
Great, thank you. Item number 4A is the approval of minutes for November 4th. Does anyone have a motion or comment on those?
All motion be approved.
For a second?
A second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Item number 5, so this is for correspondence that has been received on items not on the posted agenda.
Staff has not received comments on items not on the agenda.
We got all together now. Okay, perfect. I have no report from the chair. So we'll move on to item number 7, public expression. The review board welcomes participation in its meetings. Comments shall be limited to 3 minutes per person and not more than 10 for a subsequent agenda item, so that everyone may be heard. Public expression items are limited to matters under the jurisdiction of the review board that are not on today's meeting agenda, and items that were not previously considered by the board. Are there any public? I know that there's a member of the public. Please go ahead. So this is for items that are not on the agenda.
Hi, everybody,
If you wouldn't mind stating your name.
Sure. I'm Mary Ann Petrillo, and I'm here to invite you all to yet another community meeting, but it is as important as architecture. It is about water. And tomorrow's meeting is going to be here, and it's going to be a presentation by an engineering company that is going to be talking about the water source study. So it's a draft. So it's really our opportunity as local citizens to really participate in that study, so that when they do the revise of it, it has all the information that they need. So I'd appreciate it. I'm going to hand these out when people want, and come tomorrow. It would be great.
If I may, through the chair, Mary Ann Petrillo, could you please spell your last name? I think I got it all wrong.
It's okay. It's Petrillo, and it's Petrillo.
And are
It's
you?
Mary Ann.
Mary Ann?
Yes.
And are you with an organization?
So I am with West Business Development Center, and I'm here to help the NCCSD get community members to come to the board.
Thank you.
Everyone's at 6 o'clock tomorrow here, 6 o'clock.
Was it, yeah?
Sure, Zoom too, like that.
There is going to be a Zoom, and on these cards is a QR code in the Zoom. So I do hope you can attend. Attending, as you all know, in person is always better because you get to really participate. But we're going to do our best at opening it up in this meeting as well.
Thank you. Is there anyone that's here to speak to an item that's not on the posted agenda? Okay, moving on. So we have item number 8A, the consent calendar. This is the Sancho Williams sign. Have there been any correspondence or telephone calls on this item?
Actually not received public comment prior to the meeting. regarding 8A.
Okay, thank you. And this is a, what the address, Cindy?
One moment, it is located at 45015 Ukiah Street.
So this is for that signage, so if is there any questions or anything on that slide?
No.
Is there any members from the, I will open this to the public, this is, a sign application for Wingspan Coffee, is there anyone that would like to speak to that? Okay, seeing none, I'm gonna close that, could I get a motion?
Approved?
To approve, yeah.
Yeah, motion that.
Is there a second? A second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Or abstentions? Okay, that passes, thank you. Okay, so now we are going to go to item 9B. MHRB permit 2024-0010. This is the pipe exterior alterations in addition. This is a request for minor exterior alterations in addition to an existing family residence. It's a category 1 historic resource. The Salvador House no longer exists. That burned down in 1881. On property located at 45370 Capella Street. I will turn this over to Planner Waldman for the presentation.
Planner Wilson for Mendocino County Plan and Building Services. And thank you for the opportunity to present to the board tonight. This is Mendocino Historical Review Board application number 2024, number 10. And there are minor alterations and an addition proposed at this existing single-family residence as stated. The site is designated as a category 1 historical resource. The Salvador House, which I believe was built in 1881, but it has burned down for the record. And the existing structure was rebuilt in replication of the original Salvadorian home. And then in the 80s, the project was added on through a past MHRB permit, as well as a coastal development permit with the California Coastal Commission that allowed an addition to the north end of the home, as well as an accessory structure on the west side of the property. The parcel is currently used as a rental and a dwelling, and the proposal today is to add an increased square footage to the existing single-family residence. And I have posted printouts of the ground floor and the upper floor and the proposed elevations, both existing and proposed. And there is a proposed 6-foot width of an addition to the main residence on the southeast corner of the residence. It's approximately 6 feet going towards the east, closer to Carlson Street. I hope I got that street right, Carlson. And that will also result in increased square footage inside of the home on the main level and on the upper level. It will also increase the height of the building by approximately 4 feet. The proposed height ranges because there is a slope in the natural grade of the property. But proposed height is an additional 4 feet of building height. Will still be far underneath the 28-foot maximum building height as proposed. The materials will be proposed to have the same color and trim and features that you see on the existing building today. Part of the expansion of the residence, of this portion of the residence, the applicant is also asked to increase their decking, just by a little bit. There's existing decking that wraps around the north, the south, existing decking that wraps around the southeast corner of the home. And because of the addition, they are requesting to also extend the existing decking, rebuilding the existing decking, and propose new, in the same shape, but just out another 6 feet to accommodate a deck space at the new addition of the home. If you look at the elevations, let's see, on the south elevation, currently, there are 2 windows that exist at the gable end of the wall there at that portion. And those 2 windows that you see now, they will be relocated to be centered symmetrically with a new proposed gable roof. There's no change in pitch, but just centering and creating symmetry for where those 2 new window locations will be allowed. And then on the second floor, there's going to be dormers proposed. 1 on the west side of the building and 2 on the east side of the building. And if you look at the east elevation of the hearing packet that you've received today, or that's been made available, you will see a slight reconfiguration at the first floor for the windows on the first floor and the existing front door. Those will be evenly dispersed to create more unification, as well as with the alignment of the proposed dormers and windows that are at the second level. Please take note that there is going to be a shed dormer that connects the 2 dormers. So the allowing more square footage internally of the home is the idea is that the second level will be used for a bedroom area, and to have head height and clearance and safety height for fire accessibility. The windows are going to be slightly larger. The dormers will be a little bit larger than the single dormer that exists. And then that shed roof between the 2 dormers, that will allow for more livable space in the second level. There is 1 additional window change to the north elevation. And if you have seen the site, or if you look at the existing elevations, you will see small square windows that were permitted and allowed through previous MHRB permits and coastal development permits. So there will be a new small window. It does create a little bit more symmetry on that north elevation. The lot coverage is consistent with the parcel zoning. Staff believes that the features that are being proposed are consistent with the Mendocino Historical Review Board guidelines, including height, lot coverage, design. The materials that are proposed are clearly stating they will use wood. The features the exterior finishes will match the existing. There's going to be some re-siding of the new addition. Right now, I believe it's like a 12-inch horizontal, might be a little cement board type material. That might be pretty coastal act material, but that is going to be replaced with a 7 to 8 inch horizontal wood siding that is on the addition that was done in the 80s. So that will make the building look more consistent with itself and also become more consistent with materials. Let's see. I believe that concludes the proposal. Staff did want to just take a moment that at the site visit, there was some pictures that were presented to the board by a board member. There was a couple people there from the public as well as the owners and their agent, the owner and his agent. And it just kind of shows a photoshopped picture of what it could kind of sort of look like. It's not done to scale, but it does reflect what that new east side of the elevation will look like. And then the last thing I wanted to say is that staff did receive a phone call from a member of the public concerned about the building height that was proposed and that their private view from their residence would be their view to the ocean would be obscured. And so Mendocino County Planning and Building Services zoning regulations and our coastal elements, we really look at preservation of view from public right-of-way rather than private right-of-way. The proposal, as previously stated, does state that it is less than 28 feet in height, which is the maximum allowed above average grade. I believe that the overall overall change will result in maybe a between 20 and 22 foot height increase, with a 4-foot difference of where the existing roof is to where the proposed new top ridge line will be. So we did discuss those regulations, but for the record, we did receive a phone call from someone concerned about their private view shed. Staff is available for any questions that you may have, and I believe that the owner and their agent are also present.
Are there any questions for staff before we?
You mentioned 4 foot. You talked about the site, 3 foot, is it 4 foot?
So it depends on which ridge line you're looking at, I believe, and I'm gonna answer it to the best of my ability. My interpretation is if you are looking at the existing elevation, which is a part of your hearing packet, the existing east elevation, it states that the existing highest roof line is on the south side of the building, looking at the east elevation, and it says it's 17.5, give or take a half an inch in height, 17 feet, 6.5 inches. So they also showed that there is going to be a 20 foot, 4.5 inch height at the new ridge line. Now, that is what the drawings show. And then if you look at the, hold on, wait for it, the proposed building height on the west elevation of the proposed drawing, so the new west elevation, it says 20 feet, 11.5 inches from average grade. Now, when we're on site, we were discussing that the ridge line of the part of the building that's gonna be expanded actually looks like it's lower than the addition that was added in the 80s under a different permit. So if the overall building height was going to be 20 feet, 11.5 inches from 17, that's almost 4 feet. But there's slope terrain, and it depends on where you're taking your elevations from. The regulations state you're allowed a 28-foot maximum building height from average natural grade, and this site does have a terrain that drops. There's a retaining wall at the north end of the building that we saw, and that might be a 3 to 4 foot tall retaining wall. That is not being disturbed at all, but that natural grade comes up to that retaining wall, and that there's no expansion of the retaining wall, and there's no. The reason why the roof gets taller is because the building is becoming 6 foot wider. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay? So it depends on which corner you're picking it at.
Yeah.
So any other questions for staff before I go?
One more question, sorry. Is the west wall, is that gonna be reconstructed as well in order to create an even, roof line? Or is it, are you just gonna knock that whole thing out and put a brand new building in?
So a couple of things about this project is the scope of work is the exterior changes and the increased square footage. And while we were on site today, we noticed there was a slight lean to this portion of the building. So the building is not exactly a T-shaped building, but you could call it a T-shape. If you're just looking at the footprint, it's kind of like a T-shape. There's the original footprint, there's an expansion to the west, and then there's the expansion to the north. And the southeast corner does have a slight tilt in the building itself. And for them to expand the support of the rafters, they're going to have to shear up that western wall. So I would suspect that there would be construction on the west end of that southeast section of the T, if that makes sense. I could show you
That makes sense,
right
yeah.
here, there is definitely a lean in the wall.
Yeah.
And so this leaning wall will have to become shared up for it to pass the buildings code inspections for rafters and California building code.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
You're welcome.
I believe the architect and agent is here. Mr. Grant, do you want to add anything to that?
I just. Kelly Grimes, for the record. Thank you very much, Leonard Waldman, excellent presentation. I would like to clarify that it's 3 feet. It's a 12 and 12 roof. We're going out 6 feet. Half of 6 is 3, we're raising the building 3 feet. I apologize if some of the dimensions from the various grades around the building are a little different and kind of this little skewed, but we're raising the building 3 feet. And I know there was some discussion from the review board members about the size and, is this building becoming out of scale? I think if you looked around the neighborhood, there's several buildings that are much bigger than this building. And then we also resurrected this is a picture of the building, 1950. This is
1915.
1915. Sorry. This is the south-facing gable that we're moving this wall out. And you could see that there was a second floor over the main portion of the house that no longer exists. And it was quite a bit taller than the existing. It's even quite a bit taller than what we're asking for today. So, you guys want to see?
Show the public as well. So that was when it burned down.
I know this is
No, this is
1915.
Yeah, 1915, it burned up.
All of this, these dormers back here, this whole second floor is gone.
Do you know why
And
they
we're
were?
proposing to increase this by 3 feet and put a couple dormers maybe. You bet.
Do you know why that was removed?
I don't. I wasn't around back then.
Do you want to know the story?
Yeah, well, I mean, you're welcome to come up and speak.
Sure.
You don't mind introducing yourself for the record?
My name is Barry Fike, and I'm the owner. Well, my 3 brothers and I own this property. My parents bought it in 1964. We live in the Bay Area. We've been using this for decades, and we've come up here quite a lot. We've got a very large extended family, which is why we're hoping to add a little extra space this way. The story on why there's no longer that second story was that this was considered the Silva house. I understand originally it was the Salvo house in the burn, but the Silva's family lived there since the early 1900s. This was who owned the house. Lived in the house. They had 11 children. The story we heard was that when the last child, he was Hercules Silva, moved out, the father went up the next weekend and chopped the top off. Didn't want anybody coming back, I guess. I also heard the story that he donated the wood to build a boat. So whatever the story is, that's the different story.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Do you have any questions for the applicant? Where did the photo come from?
My mother was at an event at, this would have been back in the 70s probably, and met one of the Silva family, and they had a photo, and they gave it to her.
Wow.
Okay, yes, go ahead.
Because staff leaves the office during business hours, sometimes public comments get posted after we've left the building, and there was a comment submitted this afternoon from a member of the public. And I was not able to present that to you guys today, and I'm not sure if you did look at those before today's hearing. I can read it for the record.
Okay. And I believe the record had Lennox and Bales, there was 2, right?
Thank you.
If
you saw that,
Okay,
It is.
but yeah, go ahead.
Would you like me to read both of them, or just?
Actually,
If
hold
you
on
read
one second.
them.
I think I should open up the public hearing and then get those. I believe. Yeah, I'm going to, so if we can pause on questions up here, I'm going to open up the public hearing for this item. So the same rules apply, to be welcome participation. If you'd like to speak on this application, please come up to the podium and state your name. Public comment is limited to 3 minutes per person, and speakers are asked to address their comments to the chair. And staff will announce when you have 30 seconds. So I believe we did receive some correspondence, so feel free to share that.
Okay, I will for the record. This was submitted this afternoon by Deborah Lennox, and it says, "Dear Mendocino Historical Review Board members, please take time to carefully consider the question about the role of the board in maintaining the integrity of our historical district. This project would significantly impact a Category 1 historical house. The Salvador House, built in 1881, has had minor changes over the years, but this project will change the proportions of the original house and lose any historical integrity it has. The remodel adds a small amount of square footage, but makes big changes in the gable size, width, and height, especially facing Capella Street, which is the most historical aspect of this building. Kelly Grimes has done a great job with the design of the larger gable and dormers, but this will no longer appear as a historical building. I've been asked many times by people that buy homes in Mendocino if I think their remodels and additions are feasible. I usually recommend minor projects to Category 1 buildings. If we are allowed to completely change the proportions of these historical buildings, I will change my recommendations. I do not support such an extensive change on a Category 1 structure. Sincerely, Deborah Lennox."
Okay, thank you. And there was another correspondence as well. I missed it, so we got that one as well. Okay, so the public comment time is open. If anyone would like to speak on this item, feel free to come up.
Hi, I'm Suzanne Mendocino Hutton. I share Carlson and face the Fikes on our property faces it. All respect to the Fikes, who are lovely people. I feel that the changes proposed would have an undesirable impact on our neighborhood. The proposed remodel is significantly different aesthetically than the current, and it almost is more modern, really. And then looking at the plans, if you walk around, the profile of the house is different from all 4 directions. Not every side has changed, but the roof line shows from each side. One of the greatest concerns for Graham and I is that the roof line raised 3 feet completely blocks our view of the horizon and of the ocean, which is really sad. From our deck, when we're sitting down, we can currently see the water standing up, sitting at the table or standing at the edge of the deck. We have this lovely view of the water and the sunset. And from inside, from our dining room, we would lose the water view with the additional 3 feet. For us, the loss of the view is the terrible thing, but it also represents a loss of value of our home. We purchased a view lot 10 years ago. We would lose that. And the current peak is 100 years old, I guess, 110 years old. So, it really changes what is in our neighborhood and what we experience. There's an addition of windows on the roof, the 2 dormers, and there is an existing window, but it'd be much larger. There's currently bedrooms up there, or a bedroom and a couple beds. So with these 3 windows on the roof that's 6 feet closer, this is sort of like looking much more easily into our yard, which we're not crazy about. Not the end of the world, but the Fike home is a rental property about 50% of the time, and it's a fun, happy house that's on the headlands, and large groups really enjoy it, and it's a fun place. But that 6 feet, those large happy groups are now 6 feet closer to the road and 6 feet closer to us, and they can be loud. I think it's very important for owners to have some agency with where they live and how they live in their house. And I really feel like there's plenty of land to extend north and on one level, so that there's no limitation to them expanding a bit if they need to, without just changing all this talk. So, can't believe this. Thank you very much for being here.
And for the record, could you please spell your last name?
Yes, it's Bresina, Bresina, hyphen Hutton, Hutton.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great, is there anyone else that would like to speak to this item before I bring it back up here? Okay, perfect.
Hi there, Graham Hutton. Evelina. Oops, oh, gosh, I'm so sorry.
There's a problem up there.
I think there's one thing we can all agree on, that Mendocino is a beautiful place, and that's why we're all here. And I bought that house about 10 years ago, and the first thing I noticed was the view. It's a beautiful view of the ocean. It looks, from the deck, it looks out to the west, beautiful sunsets and so on. By the way, I would like to thank the board for their volunteering their time to be here. That's always, this makes this whole thing work. So, let's see, let's start over here. My wife Suzanne, who you just heard from, she mentioned the lighting, and I know that's something that does concern the board, is sort of ambient lighting. So instead of having one small dormer that faces our house, which is about 2 by 2, the actual window size, there are going to be 2 large dormers plus the another little 2 by 2, I think, and that's going to shed a lot of light onto our house and to our deck, which obviously is not desirable. What we're looking for is that western view of the ocean. And when you sit down on our deck, that we will not be able to see the horizon anymore. In fact, maybe when we stand on the deck, the extra 3 feet or 3+ feet of height on the ridge of Pike's house will obscure the view of the ocean. And that, of course, affects our enjoyment. It affects the value of the property. And it is, I think, undesirable. Sorry. I beg your pardon. Lost my train of thought here. It seems to happen more than these days. Anyway, thank you for hearing me. Thank you for your time. And I hope you will close the project. Thank you.
Okay, is there anyone else that wants to speak to this item? Okay, I'm gonna bring it up here. Who are the board members? Anyone want to start?
I wanted to ask the agent, Kelly, if there was any talk about keeping that roof line the same. I know that you had said that there was a extension in the 80s. Is that when the other room was built? And you said the review board was concerned about the roof height and making it equal level. I'm kind of concerned with the same thing. I think that there's some sort of balance to the house and to the whole neighborhood in that if you have the same roof height. And I don't know if there was any sort of talk about that, or if the only way that you can extend that house is to raise the roof.
Yeah, I mean, if, we're moving the wall 6 feet out, so the roof has to go up. We could change the slope of the roof, which I think would have a much more significant impact on the look of the house. We just showed you a picture. It's, it shows a second floor on that back portion. The whole back, the north portion of the house is an addition. I mean, I feel for the neighbors. I feel for people who, when construction happens, and I'm involved in a lot of construction, when it happens, it changes the environment, it changes the neighborhood, it changes the vacant lot that's been vacant for 30 years. But, you know, private views are not protected in this town. We bought that house knowing that, and we bought it with the, you know, with the gamble that someone could change. The house next door could burn down and a whole new house could go up. But the points you bring up are not historical points.
We'll try to keep it
Sorry.
this way. Any other comments?
I'd like to direct the board members to this A. So what I did was I equalized the scale on Kelly Grimes' drawings. So you have, these are equal scale. The bottom one is the existing, and the top is the new. And then I did it, and then it's for each exposure. So, you know, E is existing and N is new. So, the top one is the south elevation. That faces Calcella. So that's going out 6 feet, to the right. I'm just summarizing it, just so everyone's clear. So whereas before it means one window on either side of the existing window, under the new plan, you can fit 2 windows on either side. The roof line will be, the Kelly Grimes is a perspective that is straight on. So you're seeing the top of the dormer on the east side is more or less level with the roof. But actually, when you view it from the street, that dormer is a lot lower because it's actually farther back. It's kind of in the middle of that first structure. So under the proposed dormers, you will have 2 dormers toward the front of the house that are each 12 feet deep. So that's about the size of 2 single beds put together for your dormer that you're looking at. And that will, so you're looking at a gabled roof now. It's going to square off like this. That will change the look of the front, I think substantially. On the second page, you have the east view with the new dormers and a third dormer between them. And this changes the roof line from kind of a level view to 3 foot to 4 foot change. So when I look at this, I'm kind of looking at 2 separate houses that are stuck together. That's what I see. This whole, yeah, it's kind of like seeing 2 houses, but they're close together because one is kind of plain with that roof on the north, and then the new one is going to have these kind of fancy new dormers. And both of them have doors. There's actually 5 doors on this property already. It's interesting that way. So it's going to kind of look like 2 houses put together. It'll look like an entrance on that side, on the Carlson side. Okay, now going to the next page for north elevation. That is the facing Little Lake. And this has been modified, I don't know when. Most of the, I'd say all of these windows have a modern look. This is it looks rather like a house in Lake Tahoe. It's got the same look to it. I can't really say that that's a quaint look on Lansing. Neighbors are a little, I understand it because the view is fabulous. But once again, on the existing building, on the north elevation, which is facing the lighthouse, the existing, you'll see peaked roofs. With the addition of these proposed dormers, you'll see a boxy roof line. And then that's about it. My main point is that this will really change the scale of that building. It's really going to look like a redo. It's going to look large. I think it will definitely take away the historic quality of the historic character of that house. I could go on. The house has a certain quirky look to it. It has a little bit of flair with that interesting trim. It's long and low. But I think all this change of scale out 6 feet with the 24-foot dormers on top of the house will materially change the look of this house. And I also add, if I may, that it seems that there was an addition put on in the 80s. This might be the second half that faces the north. Now, is that true?
Lisa.
Okay, that is almost 50% of the structure as it is. If you add the square footage proposed, that's an additional 27.7% add-on. So we're talking about really changing this house quite a bit. I'd say over 60 to 70% of the structure will be new. If you count what was added on in the 80s to what is being proposed to be added on now. So my basic, what I want to kind of leave you with is that how much do people can keep adding on to their house? You know, if you add on an extra 50%, they have a big lot. But just to keep the historical character quality of the town, how much are structures, you know, I'm questioning the whole approach to this just adding scale to an historic building. I disagree with it. I would rather see smaller dormers added upstairs to give them some relief. But the addition of the scale, I object to.
So, I guess this is not what the same building, so there's an issue about whether or not we're preserving this history of the site or not. That's point number one. Public view versus private view, understanding, I have some sympathy with the lights in particular and the views. So it does seem like this is going to considerably change the historic view. Start look at the building, although it's done in a way that tries to merge into that, but I think it will change that. And I am concerned about the loss of view and the lights in particular, having gone through one of those myself, shining into the house. So it's a very common item. So.
I actually think that the design really does, thank you for these next to each other. You know, these are what Justine made for this scale. Like, you know, the lines are actually, the pitch being the same. I think it's really a faithful representation of it's not gonna have the quirky lean. That will go away. This house does leave, but I sort of have a different take on that extension. Fewer objections to it. I would ask the board, this is so tricky because we're not architects. Are there suggestions that you would have to the design that would be acceptable?
From my point of view, I think the design is a very good attempt to fit in the historic view of the house. So I can't think of anything where I'd say if we change this, it looks more historic. I think it's more a question of, the fact that you are getting a much bigger house in a sense. And again, you know, there's the view and the light problem. So I don't have any suggestions, because I think Kelly's done an excellent job of trying to fit in with the look of the house.
I mean, our job is to look at the historical nature of the house, the representation of it, and not so much the size of it. Just to say that, I mean, I do agree with Holly, I think that the architect has done a very good job to kind of represent what the house looks like now and just scaling it larger. It's difficult because, you know, you look at it and say, well, could you change anything that might make it better? And I think it looks pretty good the way it is. Good question, it's just tough, yes or no.
Yeah.
Answer that we have. So,
And I hate to tell people this, but because we only have 4 board members, if it is a tie, then it would not move forward, is my understanding, is that right? Or sorry?
If I may, through the chair. So, because we only have 4 board members, this was actually something that staff wanted to get real clear about. We've reviewed the Mendocino Historical Review Board guidelines, and if there is a tie, it is not a decision. It is not a denial, and it is not a approval. But if no action is taken within 180 days of the application being deemed complete and submitted to Plan and Building Services, then it is automatically deemed approved. So if
Action by who, by the way?
the board, if you tie, there is no action. And if no action is made within 180 days of any discretionary permit with our office is for Mendocino Historical Review Board permits, it is deemed approved by lack of action. So a tie does not deny or approve. And if no action is made.
So to summarize the round table over again, if we go 2-2 and we do nothing else, then it effectively, nothing happens in 100 days, it's an approval.
Yes,
Okay,
So-
that's a short.
so the options are tie, let it approve, continue it, or amend the motion on the table.
And we don't, I just want to clarify, we don't yet have a motion. And the other thing that was brought up at the site is that this project is subject to the coastal commission, and so this was a first step in that process for them to move forward. But it also has that review.
can I clarify the ties issue? Because that might come up in the next agenda item as well.
Again,
So if there is no action taken within 180 days, what action are you referring to? What action could possibly be taken?
you might change our mind.
It's just among us. So like in the next meeting, I would do that. I'm gonna amend my vote from the previous.
Yeah, you've made an action by not taking an action.
So so a tie is basically just a delay, yes. Is it?
How
Yes,
does that get reversed, I guess, is the question.
Somebody would have to.
If we split 2-2, we go 100 days, we do nothing, it's approved. If we split 2-2, and within that 100 days, one of the board members changes their mind, and says, no, I deny this, then it becomes a denial, is that an action, is that what we're looking at?
If the board does not make a decision and it will not be brought back to you, it will not be,
I
unless there's a
understand
revision
that,
by
but we
the
should do it
applicant.
under mention 4, at some point in the future, we can say, I'm sorry, last time we made a mistake, somebody wants to change their view.
So there's the appeal period process, and we've talked about that
No, it's not the
before.
appeal process, you said unless there's some action, the question is,
How do we
what
get
actions
action?
can be taken,
Wait,
and who can take it, and how?
I'm going to read the code, I can read it silently, to get a grip on it.
How much are we talking about?
It's code.
I know, I just, honestly,
There's
right,
2 paragraphs.
okay. Sorry, but like,
Yeah, go ahead.
you think it's gonna add clarity?
I don't know what it says just yet, I know in summary that, if there's a tie, that is no decision,
Understand?
and that there's no action that's going to be made in the next 180 days, that it would be a approved process, and somebody would have to appeal it to change it.
So once we are tied, there is no action we can take.
Right, so you could recommend a continuance, or you would change.
We're talking just straight tie, and you said within 180 days if there's no action. But what you just also said is there is no action we can take, so I'm confused.
I don't believe there is an action you should take, I'd like to read the paragraph
That's-
before
Yeah.
I talk to you
And
further.
while you read that, could I ask the applicant a question? Have you thought about not extending it out 6 feet, potentially 3 feet, so that roof line could be slightly lowered? That's the only sticking point that I have here, is that it will look like a larger structure. It is a very historic structure. You know, think about scale, has there been conversation about that?
Yeah, I mean, this was a challenging project. You know, we have to fit in a staircase, you have to have 2 rooms upstairs that are habitable. The windows got enlarged upstairs so that you could actually have a legal bedroom up there. I would like to point out that the whole building is 18 feet, 5 inches wide. So I don't know how we're gonna get 24 feet of dormer.
Because you're adding 6 feet.
18'5" is the new building width. Right now, the building's 12'5". So we're adding 6 feet, we're making an 18-foot wide building, so the dormers are both gonna be less than 9 feet.
Okay, so it'll be 18 feet across, so there'll be 9-foot roof
Yeah.
line at the top.
Yeah, but they're stepped back from the edge, you'll still see the gable, I mean,
Okay,
you know.
well, I apologize for it.
Okay, no problem.
Okay,
So you didn't really, I mean, has there been,
Yeah, when I meet with my clients, we, you know, look at all the possible scenarios. This seemed to be the most cost-effective way to increase the upstairs, make the bedroom upstairs, is make it realistically, you know, sized. Right now, even me, I can't stand up in the bedroom. So, you know, there's not a lot of places we can go. I mean, this whole back, you talk about the windows in this back addition being ugly and being like modern looking. That whole addition, you know, is not part of the category 1 house. So, you know, I'm not gonna take grief for someone else's.
not at all, it's just that that's a new section of the building.
It's not that this section exists. We're not doing anything to that.
Well, it's new, when was it?
But it
added?
exists today. It doesn't matter.
But there's no intent or request to change that.
Well, I'm fully aware of that, it's just that this keeps being added on to, that's my point.
I see. But that picture showed there was some structure back here before they just made it bigger. That picture clearly shows that there was building back here on the north side. It was just small.
And also, as far as the windows appearance, we are the aesthetics committee, this is missing. So, if I say it looks
But
like
the
someplace
aesthetics,
in Tahoe,
the aesthetics that you're supposed to be concerned with is not your personal opinion, but whether it's historically fits into the character of the surrounding building. And I don't think you can look at this, look at a gable roofs with dormers, and say that that is not in keeping with the surrounding buildings in the neighborhood.
I'm just talking about the north
But
exposure.
we're not being asked to address any changes to that area. So unless you're going to ask them to tear that down or change it, then I don't think that's right.
Can I add a response to Mr. Lopez's question?
Sure.
So your question was whether we looked at possibly doing something shorter than 6 feet, extension,
yeah,
shorter roof, and yeah, I mean, we did look at, well, to be quite frank, we originally looked at, you saw the photo of the original Silva house from back in 100 years ago. We looked at that idea originally with Kelly Grimes, and the cost, and that's bigger than what we're doing currently, and it's got out that actually the dormer, the gable dormers are in that original house are bigger than what we're doing, you can tell from the photo. We did look at that, and the expense and the configuration in our house just wasn't gonna work. It would have been taller than what we're doing currently. So then we looked at this idea of going out 6 feet. And my directive to Kelly was, the minimum amount, because the more we do, yes, it changes the scale, but also it's the cost of it. And what we figured out in doing the measurements was 6 feet is the minimum amount we could go, but still make the upstairs, walkable and,
Thank you.
Did you wanna?
I will answer, Rudy Board Member Peters' question. So if there is a motion that goes to the board, that gets presented to the board and seconded, and there is a voted tie, that is a decision, you can probably make a new motion. Like, for example, a continuance. That is how you will be able to continue to talk about this project. It would have to happen today, it couldn't happen next month, because it would have to be properly noticed, we would have to do the legal noticing. And so if there's a tie, which means no action made by the board members can bring back a new motion. That is how you would amend something. If amend the tie, you have to make some type of decision whether to let it tie to be approved. Now, tonight is the chance, unless the applicant decides that they don't want to go with the approval, and they revise their application within the next certain amount of days for the completeness.
Okay. So that would be a motion made after the vote?
If the consensus of the vote is a tie,
Then it's possible to make a motion after the vote.
that is how to get the change for you to be able to talk about it more, yes. Is to follow by another motion.
However, ideally, we would be able to come to some sort of consensus and make a motion, that would be the
Ideally,
action.
we, but.
So I'm gonna make a mo-
Okay, go ahead.
I'm gonna make a motion to approve the application.
I'm gonna second that. I appreciate this is a really tricky, situation, but I do think the applicant really made an effort
I agree.
to minimize, these changes, to the, to this historic structure. That's all I'm gonna say. Do you guys have anything you wanna add to that?
We're gonna do a roll call vote?
Yes, we are.
Okay,
Thank you for everyone's patience. Sorry, we're thinking this one's gonna be better.
okay, so, motion to approve as presented to us in the staff report tonight for NHRB permit 2024-0010. Review board member Herbert,
Nay.
review board member Sanders,
I don't think it makes any difference what I say, but I'll approve.
could you repeat the answer?
I will approve, yeah.
And, review board, or vice chair Lopez
Approve.
and chair Madrigal.
Approved.
The vote approves the project as written and as proposed in the staff report, 3-1.
Thank you all.
It's very, very challenging. Okay. We're gonna keep going, because I think we have a number of people who are here to speak to this next item, which is NHRB 2024-0009. This is the Main Street Mendocino water tower. So this is a request to replace an existing water tower staircase attached to a commercial structure with a new staircase. This site is listed as both category 1 historical Kelly Pond, Kelly rental, category 4 the non-historic resource in appendix 1 of the Mendocino town plan. Deli and restaurant on the property located at 45040 Main Street. Planner Crowley, or would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, hello everyone, my name is Liam Crowley with Planning and Building Staff. I'd like to say a few things about this project that I've seen notes I've prepared. So, similar proposals for this property have been heard by the review board in 2022 and 2023. Originally, the applicant had proposed an enclosed staircase that would resemble the architecture of the attached commercial building. And at the time, the review board rejected the design and continued the project to allow the applicant to revise the design. Subsequently, the applicant proposed an enclosed sort of faux water tower design, and the board also rejected this idea and denied the permit. The current proposal would remove the existing water tower staircase and replace it with an uncovered staircase. So for the history of the water tower itself, we have sources from Eleanor Sverko and the Kelly House Museum. The water tower was originally constructed in 1904 on the Mendoza property east of Lansing Street. In 1923, the water tower was altered slightly. A windmill was removed and an existing water tank was replaced with a larger one. In 1975, between 1975 and 1976, the tower was dismantled and rebuilt in its current location. A few of some of the beams had to be cut, which lowered the tower by about 6 feet. The commercial building to which the water tower is attached is listed in the inventory of historic structures as a category 4B non-historic structure that is not a copy of the historic building. However, the water tower itself is not listed in the inventory either on the Main Street property or on the Lansing Street property where it originally came from. Despite this, the structure likely meets the definition of historically important as defined in the county code because the original construction date is known, 1904, research regarding its history has been conducted, and the architecture has been slightly modified. The property owner had applied for a hardship waiver in accordance with the duty to maintain section of the county code, and that hardship waiver would essentially require that the county stay the enforcement of the duty to maintain section of the chapter of the code. However, our office planning and building determined that this duty to maintain section does not apply to the water tower structure because it is not specifically listed in the inventory of historic structures.
Can I ask a question, sort of in the stream? That hasn't gone to the board of supervisors yet,
It
right?
has.
It has?
It has, and the board made the same determination.
Made the same determination. Okay, that wasn't clear from the report, thank you.
So the granting of this permit would require 3 findings to be made. And in my opinion, the most important finding that the review board should consider is finding C, which it states that, quote, where the historic work consists of alteration or demolition of an existing structure, such work will not unnecessarily damage or destroy a structure of historical, architectural, or cultural significance, end quote. And I think the key word here is unnecessarily. The applicant has provided financial information regarding the past upkeep of the structure as well as the theoretical restoration of the structure. And therefore, I think the review board should consider whether or not the evidence that's been provided shows that it is, in a sense, necessary for the owner to dismantle the water tower despite its historical importance. So that's really all I have to say, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Could you repeat that necessarily sentence?
Sure, yeah. So it says, where the proposed work consists of alteration or demolition of an existing structure, such work will not unnecessarily damage or destroy a structure of historical, architectural, or cultural significance.
Okay.
Can I ask one more question before you go, which is, I don't know how the board is gonna vote on this one, but this has come, 2 other previous permits have come before us and been declined, and so if this one is also declined, what is the path for the property owners?
So the property owners could appeal that decision to the board of supervisors within the 10-day appeal period, and then the board of supervisors would hold their own public hearing, and they would decide either to uphold the decision of the review board or modify the decision or reverse the decision.
So does the public also have the right to appeal that decision? In other words, with a group of people who,
Yes.
let's say we decide that we are going to let this building be torn down, the public can get together and someone can go to the board of supervisors and appeal that decision also.
Same.
Either decision could be appealed,
Either
either by the builder, by the owner, or by.
I should note on that the,
Financial.
there is an appeal fee that would have to be paid, and that fee is $2,674.
Okay. So, are there any other questions of staff? Okay, so, and I believe the applicant is here. Would you like to add anything?
Actually, there is one other question. Do you as a building planning have any, right or status view on whether the building is dangerous or, unsafe at this point? Is that within your purview?
No. I personally don't have any,
Not.
I as a staff member of planning and building, don't have any opinion on the structural stability and whatnot. I would just go off of the opinion of an engineer.
So I believe the applicant is here. Does anyone want to speak to this? You don't have to, but you're welcome to.
Jennifer Raymond, and I am a member of the LLC that owns this property and this structure. The LLC was formed with my brothers and I. We purchased this property from my parents' estate. We obtained it in February of 2021. And I have to say, I lived here before this water tower was built. I lived here while it was being built. I loved Barry and Heidi Cusick. I have nothing against this water tower. It was wonderful. And the last thing I think that was on our minds when we got this property was tearing this water tower down. However, we obtained the property and I came to Mendocino. I live up in Ferndale, but I came here and Matt O'Halloran took me on a tour of this water tower and showed me all the problems that existed. And it was daunting. It was not safe. And so our first reaction was, it needs to be repaired. So we brought in a contractor, and the contractor went over it and said, can't be repaired, it would have to be rebuilt. I will not try to repair this, the liability is too great. Second contractor said the same thing. And at that point, we realized that we had a real liability on our hands. And we said, okay, can't be repaired, we need to replace it. And at that point, we turned to Kelly Grimes and we said, could you design something to take the place of this water tower? The reason we couldn't simply rebuild it as is the scope of that project would trigger ADA, and we would have to put in an elevator to the second story, number one. And number two, we actually wanted to put in a lift to the second story. I will tell you, it makes me pretty nervous to think of people up there.
If you can direct your comments, sorry, try to direct your comments, right?
It makes me nervous to think of the people up there at Flow having a good time, having a few drinks, and coming down that stairway. And so we all agreed this would be much better to put in a building that could house a lift to get to the second floor. It is not feasible within the structure of the existing water tower. And so Kelly designed a building that would work. The review board did not like that, continued it, said make it look more like a water tower. So he designed a second structure, look more like a water tower. and we were rejected. One of the comments was, I don't know how damaged this really is. I don't know how much it would cost to repair it. And at that point, we said, okay, we need more than just what these contractors have said, and we turned to a structural engineer who we had examine the water tower carefully and write a report for us, and that's included in your packet tonight. And that engineer said, basically, this structure is at the end of its useful life. It needs to be either removed or completely rebuilt. And again, we come back to, if we try to rebuild it as it is, we can't put the lift in there, but we are required by ADA to incorporate a lift because of the cost of the project and the amount of change that we're making. So we feel really stuck. My brothers and I grew up here. We love the water tower, but it is dangerous. We know it is. I watched somebody, we had an asbestos inspection of it about 2 months ago, and I watched the person walk up the stairway that is now closed to the public. And as he went up that stairway, it literally came down more than 5 inches as he was standing on it, because it is simply not supported at the bottom. There is so much rock in the water tower, and that's why it's all blocked off after the second floor. So this is not what we bargained on or what we wanted to do. In fact, we so didn't bargain on it that after the Mendocino Historic Review Board denied us last time, we said, let's just sell it. And we put it on the market. And nobody wants to buy this problem. We are stuck with it, and we're trying to do what's right. And we are scared that this water tower is not safe. If we had an earthquake, does California ever have earthquakes? If we had an earthquake, it could come down. That's what the structural engineer said. Even a large windstorm could be damaging. It does not have the structural integrity it needs. It cannot be repaired. It isn't that we've chinsed out. By the way, I just want to say the previous owners, who were my parents, spent thousands of dollars repairing that water tower, and that's also in the staff report tonight. Whatever receipts I could find, there's over $25,000 of repairs that they did, including work on the foundation and replacing one of the main structural elements. So it isn't like they were ignoring it. And we don't want to ignore it, but we need to have it come down. And that's why this time we're simply asking, we just need to get this thing down. And then we can take the time to figure out what goes in next. The other constraint that we're really dealing with is that there is a business on the second floor that relies on the stairway that's in this water tower. And we can't come to these meetings and argue with people about what a new structure should look like for 6 to 9 months and say to them, oh, sorry, your business is closed because there's no stairway. But really, for safety's sake, that's what we have to do. Board this thing up and we'll talk about it, and Float Restaurant would have no access from the public. And so we're trying to balance all of this, and we had hoped that we could get an approval so that we can do this during the winter months when the restaurant isn't as busy, when there isn't as much traffic, both pedestrian and vehicle, because this is going to significantly impact the street, Main Street, as well as the sidewalk. So we're not not here because we like tearing down old things. In fact, anybody who knows me knows I love old buildings. I live in a house that was built in 1887, spent 2 years remodeling it, and dozens of contractors came by and said, would have been a lot cheaper to just tear it down and build a new one. Yes, it would have, but I love this old building. So we really want to honor and respect the people who care about this water tower, but we have a serious public safety.
Thank you very much. Was there any questions of that applicant?
Did you have one?
I have just a question about the Mendel Lake termite control. If you, it says shows treatment of the water tower for pests to cost $55,500. So would that fix the problem? Would that completely fix the rot?
Thank you. It would not. That doesn't, part of the problem is that the foundation of this, and nobody can access the foundation right now. It's buried under the deck. It wouldn't address the foundation. It wouldn't replace those large main structural beams. They would treat it.
They would treat those beams for the existing rot, right?
Correct.
And they would eliminate the lichen overgrowth and, so that was my question. Okay, thanks. And then to demolish, and it says to demolish the water tower, but I think you need demolish and rebuild for $383,950.
That amount was to demolish it
That's
and rebuild it. That was an estimate that we received from one of the contractors. And again, the problem with that is that it would not be able to accommodate a lift to the second floor. And once we spent, I don't remember what ADA is, but it's like, once you spend over $126,000, you have to become ADA compliant, which means we need a lift to the second floor.
Okay, and would that be using current day redwood or old growth?
It would be current day redwood.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions up here before we open it up?
Did you look at the price of potentially throwing an elevator in a build, like a new water tower build? Did William Pell quote you for a an elevator inside of the water tower, or is that?
It simply doesn't fit within the structure. The structure would have.
The current structure,
The current,
but a new water tower,
that was the estimate that he gave us did not include the addition of a lift, nor did it include replacement of the foundation, which would have to be done because the current foundation is not up to current standards.
If I remember rightly from the last discussion which Holly and I were into, I think we're at, an open structure with an elevator in it was considered not to be doable because of the exposure to the elements. So you end up building another building that's enclosed, which is the one we denied last time, it's a replacement. So I think the elevator question is, we thrashed that pretty much last time. So it is not, as I understand it, possible to put an elevator in.
It was possible. Well, it's in a closer.
In an open structure.
Yeah,
Like
you have to close
it. And then you no longer have to start with it.
Potentially.
Yeah.
Potentially.
That was the thought.
Okay, great, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Can I ask you, Scott, something? So you were checking on the ADA stuff, that's an accurate representation of the ADA requirements. Aren't you not meant to back that up?
I can respond to that. We did reach out to one of the building inspectors in planning the building, and it was sort of an off the cuff kind of guess. He wasn't looking at any plans. We got him on the phone, but his inclination was that they would be required to put in an elevator.
Okay.
The building would be torn down and replaced.
Okay.
So I'm going to open this up to public comment. As we said, we appreciate participation in our meetings. If you'd like to speak to this application, please use the podium, and if you can state your name for the record. Public comment is limited to 3 minutes per person, and speakers are asked to address their comments to the meeting chair, and staff will announce when you have 30 seconds or so. I just want to say before we start that I know that there's a lot of strong feelings about this application, but that's why we're wanting people to address us versus each other. My hope is that we could have respectful comments. I did just want to mention that we did receive a number of correspondence on this one. Simonich, Lamb, Roth, Kavanaugh, Look, Cameron, McGrath, Potash, Domney, Gardner, Coppage, Raymond, Steele, Balsey, and actually, and they attached a signature sheet that they gather signatures in the community. Helen, Child, Weigel, and Ricard. Was there any that came in after that?
Yes.
I don't know, I don't think we have time to read them, but.
Rice.
Rice.
Is
Oh, is it very brief?
a summary would be that there was only, other than the owners, there was only one that, was in agreement with the owners, the remainder wanted to carry the stage.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's,
This is
is that true? From reading the whole this afternoon, that was.
Right.
Yeah, there was only one person that said
In support
in support of, yeah.
The last comment from Arlene reads, please vote to not tear down the historic water tower. It can be repaired, although more expensive. Expenses should not be the deciding factor.
of. Okay, thank you. Okay, so is there anyone that would like to speak to this item? You're welcome. If there are none, that's fine.
Are we allowed to speak to the kind of general tenure?
We'd like to keep the comments
Give it a
specific to the application.
Okay.
But-
I would like to
but-
say something, I'll come up to the podium.
Thank you.
And this is about, not this exactly project, but about listening to what's going on here. And I am an old lady, and I've been here for 54 years. And when I listen to this, you have to put two houses together for one family, how big is that? I'm sorry, well, they're gone now. How I feel about this town is we can't afford to live here. And I understand it is very expensive. I've been here for 54 years. I understand I have a business that I can't afford to buy the property because it has gone to the point where no one can afford to do it because according, and I'd like to tell you this thing too. It looks like I'm lying with the landlord. I haven't met them until today. They have not let me buy the property or sell the property because of the liability. They found out I would be $1 million liable, they would be $1 million liable. There's no way we could survive here. I have 30 to 50 employees. This is a different kind of issue than whether you can buy a $3 million property in Mendocino. That's what I want to say.
For the record, would you please say your name?
I'm sorry. Yeah, maybe that. My name is Meredith Smith, and I'm a Mendocino Cafe and Flow, which I can tell you fairly breaks even. Flow, Cafe is doing all right.
Yeah, there is that. Anyone else like to speak to this? Go ahead. Yes.
Great. Hello, everyone. Thanks for coming. Thanks for your time. Thank you for volunteering. My name is Matt O'Halloran, O'Halloran. And I love you know, I'm a volunteer. I'm a riparian, used to be a fireman. And I'm just here, I'm not being paid, just here because as a concerned citizen. My opinion might not be the majority. Sorry,
Thank you.
yeah. Have you guys ever been up to the third or fourth floor of the water tower? It's really bad. The stairs are bad, the floors are bad. The water tower you see now on Main Street is not the water tower that was at Mendocino. It had no rails around it. It was much taller. It didn't have a stairwell through the middle of it. What the applicant is asking for is to replace like for like, a stairwell with this stairwell. I'll say it another way. This isn't Disneyland. We're real people, it's a real town. We love Mendo. But that water tower is a faux water tower. It's been there a long time. You know what dry rot is? It's fungus. Fungus that eats the inside of a bean or a post. We've changed, I used to work for the Raymonds years ago. We have changed many parts of the water tower because they fill a hole. That's a dangerous situation. With Meredith's business upstairs, she just spoke. And there's her clients, her employees, and there's access issues with the fire department coming up the stairwell. I don't know if you've ever taken anyone out of a building down the stairs, but it's kind of a dramatic turn downstairs and we use a stair chair. It's dangerous. Tilly can tell us about legal requirements of widths of stairwells. That doesn't have a legal requirement, does not need a legal requirement. Thanks for listening. I just care enough to come here after works, and it's not safe. It's not historical. In Mendoza it was. It was great. Barry bought it for $1. It was for business. You know, he's a smart. Does anyone know Barry? Barry's a great guy. He developed a system to get up to the water tower. It was called Brandon's. Before Barry put the water tower in, the Drinkwaters lived there. Does anyone know Lillian and Homer Drinkwater? They lived upstairs, and Homer's Market was downstairs.
Is that the timer?
About 30 seconds. That's
Okay.
30 second notice.
Second cricket.
All right, to wrap it up, I really hope you let the Raymonds, or the Mendocino LLC, remove the water tower, put up a legal staircase, and we move forward. Have someone rebuild the tower at Rotary Park, or at Kaiser Field. You know, this isn't the end of the road, it's just the end of this water tower's life on Main Street. Thanks for listening.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak to this item? Go ahead.
I'm here Dry Lamb, for the record, and I served 2 terms on the Historical Review Board, and I appreciate your volunteer time. And I have some comments. First off, I hope that you've had taken the time to read through all of the many letters that were submitted from people that you have to picture that they are here, because those letters were very heartfelt. And there was many, many letters in favor of keeping the historic water tower. I appreciate Mr. Crowley's assertion that it is a historic structure. So I don't know, I keep hearing, no, it's not historic. It is historic. And then to address the fact of the earthquake, it's been there for many years, and it went through the 1906 earthquake, and then was moved, and then went through the earthquake in 1989. It's a fear tactic that there's gonna be some huge earthquake tomorrow that's gonna take down the water towers. There's water towers all over this town that have survived the earthquakes. So I want to especially address Karen McGrath's letter, since Karen is going to be coming out with a book called Elevated Water, A Photographic History of Mendocino's Iconic Water Towers. And they documented 76 water towers, less than a third of them remain. parked front and center on Main Street's busiest block, the Mendoza Tower does not try to be grand, yet it still makes quite an impression. When I was director curator at the Kelly House Museum located next door, visitors would invariably ask about the towers they encountered, including this one. What were they? What were they for? Why are they here? My answer is that they are unique architectural features of this town that have been strenuously preserved. And I encourage you to read this whole letter. But in the Historical Review Board guidelines, it doesn't, the entire town is a federal historic district. It doesn't have to be listed that each shed or water tower is listed. The whole town is a historic town. As for findings, for the Mendocino Historical Review Board, and this is in the guidelines, may not approve or conditionally approve any application for proposed work unless it affirmatively finds among other items that if the proposed work or demolition of an existing structure, that such work will not necessarily damage or destroy a structure of historic, architectural, or cultural significance. At this point, logging is gone, the cannabis industry is out, the wine industry is on the decline. What do we have? We have tourism. And people come here for the water towers. So if you look even at your own agenda, when the letters continue going on and on about the skyline, you look at your own agenda, it's the skyline of Mendocino, and it has the water tower is in that skyline. And that's part of the fabric. People come here to see water towers. That's what Mendocino has. I just can't even believe that the Historical Review Board would even consider destroying a water tower, and especially from an applicant who, sure, maybe she used to live here. I've lived here for at least as long as she used to. She doesn't live here now. The property is on the market. The property is on the market for a considerable amount of money. And even the listing agent says, rightly so, the trophy property of Main Street, Mendocino, an iconic water tower. That's the first thing it says, an iconic water tower. It adds to the value of that property. I think without the water tower, that building is very nondescript, and there's another nondescript building in the back, and the water tower adds value to the property. And I'm saying that as a realtor. And so I do know that John Simonich is an engineer, and he came up with an idea, that's another one of the letters, of structurally putting steel to reinforce the water tower and cover it with wood. That, I believe, is an idea I hadn't thought of, that maybe there are other ideas. The stairs that they were saying you can't access, yeah, well, it's blocked off, and yeah, they saw someone walking on there. That's been blocked off, but those stairs can be replaced, and the Meadow Lake test report came in at $55,000. So then when I was there at the site view, they said, oh yeah, well, we haven't done a lot of these things, but we could to reinforce this. And the argument that it's hard to get people downstairs, for some problem. Well, but they're looking at, it doesn't make sense to me, because they're looking at replacing stairs with stairs. So what, and a less attractive stairwell, it's just a regular stairwell. And then you don't have that beautiful skyline of the Mendocino Water Tower that's front and center. It's a trophy. It's the water tower that people can walk up and down. That's the only one really on Main Street, and that's what people come to see. So those are my comments. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak to this item?
My name is Judy Steele. I've been associated with the property in question for about 17, 18 years now. both with the previous owner and then as the trustee of the estate and now property manager and part owner of the property. I lived in Mendocino in Historic District B up in Furytown. Eleanor Starko was my neighbor down my street on Wheeler Street, and I lived there for 38 years. I think I have like the Mendo cred a little bit. I'm not from the family that came from the Drinkwaters that used to own the property, that built the store and lived upstairs, but I know some of their grandchildren. I'd like to read this. And it is a fact that a brand new water tower, which was built in 1904, did withstand an earthquake 2 years later. That's a good thing. We haven't tested it since, and it is, trust me, it's very rotten. In 1947, Homer and Lillian Drinkwater built a 2-story building at 4504 Main Street. This was the home of Homer's Market for more than 20 years, and the family lived upstairs. The upstairs residence was accessed by a stairway in the rear of the building. There was no other access to the second floor residence. In 1975, Jim Coupe applied and was given a permit to reconstruct the old Mendoza's water tower to house a stairway to the second floor, since there was no access. The stairway took customers to the Ed Mead's tasting room, later to Brandon's Whale Watch restaurant, the Bayview Cafe, and now Flow Restaurant. Barry Cusick took down the water tower, removed several feet of rotten timbers, reconstructed it adjacent to the deli, and added a 3rd-story observation deck to the top. The reason the Mendoza family sold the water tower to Barry was that it was deteriorating. This is certainly not the first tower to be disassembled. This article is from the Kelly House Archives. J.D. Johnson, the prolific Mendocino building contractor, built this water tower, there was a photo, on his property just north of the Masonic Hall on Lansing Street in June 1885 to furnish water to his nearby construction and undertaking buildings. By January 1949, the tank had not been used for a number of years, and the tower was slowly falling apart. The Masonic Order, which owned the tower at the time, gave the water tank and tower to the Mendocino Volunteer Fire Department. The fire department dismantled the tower and used lumber for improvements to the Lansing Street Fire Station, so it's still with us. The photographs in the link below, and I do have a link, and I have the photographs to show you, show the view from the Kelly House Pond in 1975 and a view in 1976 after the addition of the water tower. There is more of a historic and clear view of Main Street, Mendocino, when the cobbled-together tower with its observation deck did not exist there. The tower is a recent addition to the location and has always been represented as a means to access an upstairs business, not to store water, but to provide a photo op and enclose a staircase.
If you can summarize the end of it, because we did receive this and got the pictures.
Yes, I'm just
Okay.
2 sentences away. The cost of recreating a so-called iconic structure that is not listed on the historic inventory is prohibitive. All the owners want to do is provide safe access to the second-story restaurant and allow the owner, Flo, and the 30 employees to continue with their livelihood. We would like to return the view from the Kelly House Pond to its pre-1976 version. I'm happy.
Is there any, Mr. Saxon, have your hand up?
Rick Sachs. One of the things that I mentioned the last time this issue came up, and I haven't heard anybody address it, is in the marine industry years back, there were problems where people were having dry rot in some of the main members of wooden boats. And to take a boat apart was very costly. And there was a product that was invented in the Bay Area by a guy named Smith, and the product's available today. And it's a penetrating epoxy that eliminates a lot of the structural problems with dry rot. And I haven't heard anybody talking about fixing the wood that's existing. You know, it's just, yes, they can have dry rot, but there are ways of dealing with it. And I'd love to hear that looked into. I tried calling them today to see if they could put something together for the meeting tonight, it was too late. Other than that, the only, something I haven't heard addressed, and I don't know if it's reasonable or not, would be to have a back entrance at Flow where there could be an elevator in the back. And, you know, that wouldn't be seen from the street. Thank you.
If I may, the pictures that were submitted, today from Judy Steele, staff would need to have a copy of that when you're done with that for the record.
Okay, you do have them, they were attached in the comments.
Is
So
it
we can pass them on.
editable?
No, they're from the Kelly House Museum website. But you can have.
Thank you.
Okay. Is there anyone else that would like to speak to this item?
Simone Josias, and from my understanding from reading the town plan, you buy a property, a historic property here, you are required to maintain it. Yes. Whatever the cost, that's all I have to say.
Ignore that.
That was good timing.
Yeah.
That was a good time.
Thank you, Zach.
Sorry about that.
Just go ahead.
But yeah. You bought it, you maintain it.
Good evening, my name is Emily Weigel. I've lived on the coast since 1978. I'm concerned about the environmental effects of making an application look like as if the primary purpose of the proposed skybridge design is to allow the applicant to pass off this project as a repair to the existing stairway. Such a claim would allow them to skirt ADA requirements and other current building codes that they raise as financial concern in their letter. In no way does the scope of the project demolition and new construction constitute the stairway repair. Categorizing it as such in order to bypass ADA requirements that protect people with disabilities is not okay. In the staff report on page 1, there is no environmental determination mentioned. On page 3, it's mentioned that it's categorically exempt. In my view, it should have an MND, mitigated negative declaration. I urge the board to reject this application on the basis of the proposed work will unnecessarily damage or destroy a structure of historical, architectural, or cultural significance, MCC section 2760065. Please listen to the many local voices. So far, 14 in opposition and 80 to 90 people signed the petition. It should be declared a historical landmark and perpetually preserved, listed in the California Register of Historical Resources and National Register of Historic Places. Grant money should be available to help the owners. In the meantime, to allow flow to function, build a temporary stairway was the caveat to restore the water tower and actually do it, not like other projects where things never get done. The owners have listed the property for $2.98 million. I grew up in Europe and I'm aware of the many historic structures that these countries pay for maintaining and protecting them. Many are World Heritage Sites, like for example, the towers in San Gimignano in the Tuscany next to Florence, 14 towers of them. Actually, Bill Brazil, former teacher at the high school, was going to write the book comparing those to the Mendocino water towers. Or, for example, the Tower of Pisa, the Leaning Tower. They're all World Heritage Sites. Jim and Brenda Coupe bought the water tower for $1, gave it new life. Bill Zappa bought the chicken coops for $1 and created the Mendocino Art Center, which in turn encouraged many artists to move here. John Bear sold the building to the Mendocino Unified School District for $1, which is now used by Mendocino Community Network and provides a great service to teachers and the community. And I just want to add that it is also possible, after we hear from the Board of Supervisors, if it goes to that point, to appeal this project to them free of charge. Thank you so much.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak to this? Go ahead.
My name is Lorraine Shorley, and it's a couple of things. It's interesting that a lot of people in the audience, as well as you on the board, have stressed, how much time they spent in Mendocino. And if you know me personally or know my background, I think I trump all of you. What is historic, besides sitting on the review board in the late 1970s for 7 years. And first of all, I want to address that this tower is not historical. It doesn't necessarily have total cultural significance to the community because it was, as Mr. Halloran said, was dismantled and changed over the years. It's not at its original site. And growing up here, there wasn't a water tower on Main Street where Homer's Market is, and basically had a different view shed than what it has now. So there are two issues that are with you as a board member, is the safety, and you have the engineer's report. It's not something that you can close your eyes to because you've been told that the liability for the county, as well as the property owners and the business owner, they're all on the line if something happens. So you as a county are on the line as well financially. So that's something that should be kept in mind as well. In addition to being liable, the fact is, the other issue is that the property owner is asking you to build an interim stairway so that the upper story business can still function, and they're not saying no to doing another water tower. They're just asking for an interim and then coming back to you to talk about, what water tower would meet your approval. So people who have been discussing in the audience sounds like, okay, it's all gonna disappear. And that is not what that application clearly states. And that's your charge as the board.
Hi, Scott McRae, EPHRAIM. Thank you for your time. Thanks everybody for being here. I just want to say a couple of things. One, this is their third time the Ravens have come to this board to ask to do something about this situation that they have. They have a problem. It's been agreed by other people, professionals, saying that they should attend to this. And that's a responsible thing to do. And so 2 times already, you've sent them away with a no. And I'm asking you to, whatever you do today, give them something. Because you can't just keep sending them away and say no. We have to give them the opportunity to do something. They're in a quandary here. And Ms. Raymond said that. They're trying to do something. So I think it behooves all of us, and we have a responsibility to help them to do something. Thank you.
Good job.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak? Oh, you already
She only
spoken,
had a
actually.
second because she
Yeah.
got cut off. Remember the chirp?
No, she was saying she was done.
She said she was done.
Oh,
Before, yeah, we had the accidental, sorry about that, but just because we have so many comments, I would like to hear from people that we haven't heard from yet. And we did get your letter as well. We did get the letter as well. Is there anyone who hasn't spoken yet that would like to address this issue?
Are we allowed to ask for a clarification?
I'm sorry?
Are we allowed to ask for a clarification?
Sure.
Well, because a lot of this is new to me too, and I've been reading all the material.
Come up to the front, please,
Oh,
Meredith, so we can hear you. Because your voice is important.
I'm nervous and I'm in the flow. So I have some ideas, I know this is a public habit, in terms of stairways. I think that if they were allowed, if the owners, which have not been talking to me until now because they're worried, if we could rebuild the stairway so that it is complying with county code now, wide, big, I fell down a flight of stairs, I know what it's like, but code is not that high. And so for most people, I think if we built a stairway that had, that if we could go all the way out to where the deck is now, and it's low grade stairways with wide handrails, then you could go up, it would actually be good for you to go up there. And the other thing I want to say about structural, because when people talk about the
Is this a
termite
clarification though?
this is a clarification about right, where you guys are talking, I don't know what's true. You say for 55,000 or whatever, they can stop. They didn't stop stuff from being rotted out, they could stop more termites or whatever they're doing, like pest control. That was only pest control, that had nothing to do with the structure, I would like to say. It was very confusing.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. And I feel like because I let Meredith get up and say something, Van, did you want to add? But if this could be really short, because we did receive your letter as well, so I just want to make sure that we're not repeating things.
Thank you. Yes, apparently, Simone Precise, thank you. Apparently, there was a much smaller water tower near, on Main Street near Circa, and it was demolished with the requirement to build another one, and that never happened. And so that's what I'm concerned about, is that if we put up this temporary staircase with the, say, oh, we'll build another water tower in a couple of years, how do we know that's gonna happen?
That's on the county.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna close the public hearing and bring it back up to the board. The board members, we've heard a lot.
It's a really tough one because it is not a historic structure, and the legal definition is therefore the care of specific does not apply and for that for the town. However, it is an iconic structure in terms of the view of the town, even though it's been there since 1976. On the other hand, it is a safety hazard, and I have to believe that the contractor wrote and said it is a safety hazard, and therefore there is a liability. So coming through all that, I've only heard three suggestions about how to fix that problem. One is to tear it down. One is Rick's suggestion to put some sort of resin in to, talk about the rock, and the other was the steel reinforcement. I don't know how much those cost. I don't know whether it's even feasible, but that may be an avenue we want to address, because when you cut through it, it is part of the town. It is historic, it may not be unhistoric, whatever. And if there was a way to fix it, I'd like to see it fixed, but so far I've not heard a real concrete sort of suggestion that has said, yes, it will fix the problem, but yes, it's only gonna cost us much money. So, that's my.
Yeah, I agree with you, Mr. Saunders. It is an iconic feature of our main street, our main thoroughway. It's something everybody sees who visits Mendocino. So I'm looking here on the pest report, and it does say that they will remove and replace appropriate trades to remove and replace damaged and infected timbers with new material. So that's on the decking. Then on the support beams, appropriate trades to remove and replace fungus damaged, badly wood boring, beetle infested timbers with new material. And then for the subfloor, for the same language. So they are talking about replacing the rotted timber with new material. So that's all in the $55,000 estimate. That's all included. The most costly.
I don't know if that's true. No, I think just appropriate trade, so the appropriate trade.
Appropriate trades to remove and replace fungus damage, and then that's item 3D.
I understand what you said.
So I believe that would be, they can treat the fungus to stop it from continuing. They might be able to repair like if you had a beam, you could repair a part of it.
Right.
It will not structurally, they won't structurally replace or repair for that amount of money. And the contractors they spoke to basically said they
I don't
would.
quite understand because they're saying they will.
No, it says the appropriate trade must. It doesn't say that's included in.
It doesn't say
the point.
appropriate trades must, it says appropriate trades to remove
Yes.
and
Well, that
replace.
doesn't imply that that's included in the other. I never read that from there, so I do understand that.
When I go to the itemization of the costs, it ties back to this, 3D is the select large dimension support beams, so that's the big ones. Appropriate trades to remove and replace fungus damaged battery wood boring beetles with new material. And 3D is the most costly, $25,000 itemized. So it appears to me at least that that's what they're talking about in that.
No.
So they're talking about just repairing, and I think that that is something that, that's what I'm in favor of, if they just repair the existing structure. It hasn't been gotten around to, but I think that they can still effect this, they can still repair it. And a good suggestion that was made at the meeting on site is that they take the staircase out of the structure and just have the water tower structure there. And then there's other possibilities to put a staircase at the back of the building or at the front or even inside the building. And I think that a staircase would be a pretty quick thing to put in there, and I mean, comparative to all the other stuff we're talking about, I think they could wang one in there pretty quickly. And then they can take their time fixing the semi-dilapidated structure. So that's it, there's lots of room in the interior lower building. The lower, really spacious. So I think there's room to put a stairway, so that's.
Okay, I just want to clarify that I think the applicants would love nothing more than to be able to repair the structure as existing and just let it go, and I'm pretty sure they've been told by multiple professionals that they could maybe, prevent it from continuing to decompose, but not structurally dangerous.
I don't see that they have demonstrated that they want nothing more than to repair.
Did you have anything to share?
So, the removing of the stairwell in let's just get this clear, is dangerous, the water tower, as it stands, especially as a public access way. That being said, it is an iconic, fixture on Main Street. I wasn't here for the previous meeting when Kelly drew up a design of a new water tower. But I did want to entertain, have you thought, where's the applicant? Have you thought of, creating a new stairwell behind the water tower? I mean, the water tower does not need to be the entrance of the building. And I just want to clarify as well, before you say anything, that when you purchased the building, you purchased it with the water tower. And it was your responsibility to do your due diligence on the structural integrity of that. So I just wanted to know if, was there thought in there to consider keeping the water tower, throwing some steel pillars to reinforce the structure that's there, but no longer use it as a public access way. I mean, that just seems like it's gonna be it's gonna make both parties the happiest. We keep our water tower, you continue to run your business. So
There is no way to access the restaurant with a stairway in the back. The back goes directly into the kitchen, which would mean all the public would have to walk through the kitchen.
well, I'm talking about just right behind the water tower. So
That's the kitchen.
okay. So right behind the water tower. So you have the kitchen goes way back. It goes like, I've been in the back. It goes
Yes.
30, 40, 50, 60, 70 feet, I think. I'm not sure the exact.
The water tower is the kitchen, so, and if you have never built a stairway, it takes a lot of space. People
Yeah.
don't realize how much space it takes to get up there. And it would enter into the kitchen. So it's simply, we've looked
So
at
you
that.
looked at trying to get
Absolutely.
just 6 feet to the right of where the existing door is. That's what I'm just trying to, you've entertained that.
You're back into the kitchen by then.
Okay, thank you.
And same thing in front of the water. I mean, it's, yeah.
The front of the water tower is dining room, so that seems like it'd be feasible to make the entrance. You can create the dining room, you could just take the entrance the way it is now and create that, make that the dining room, and then just shift it over to the front if you were planning on doing that. So, thank you. Yeah, I just, I'm a little bit disappointed on it with the stairwell that was proposed. I just don't think it's sufficient in replacing what is currently there. I mean, it's part of what this building is. And being that it's on the market for $2.9 million, and, you know, with the water tower being the focal point of that. I mean, it's in the description of the sale. It just seems to me that as a board member and as a member of the community, I can't justify saying this needs to come down. Now, it is dangerous and it should not be walked on. So I think that there needs to be, I think, at least just speaking for myself, if the applicant was to think a little bit more outside the box and create a stairwell that was outside of the water tower. Now, if you lose some kitchen space, that's part of what you have here with the property. You're gonna have to figure out a way to make it usable. And if the dining room has to get shrunk, that's part of doing business in Mendocino, unfortunately. So that's where I'm at, and I think that it's gonna be tough for me to change my mind. I do think that it would be advantageous to see if a structural engineer could draw something up just to cheaply put some steel on the inside. I totally approve that, to be able to make that structurally sound. So, thank you.
All right, so I'm sort of, so I was on the review board when Al and I saw it, and I actually was on the other side of this when we were. I'm really sensitive to the fact that this is a property with a liability structure on it. Like, I agree that it's not safe. And so I'm really sensitive to that, and when I voted against it previously, it's because the applicant was trying to come up with some sort of structure, you know, to have, and we were trying to figure out how we could make it look like a water tower and still serve the purpose. I'm really empathetic to the fact that this is this iconic structure and that people don't want it to change, but I also know that willing something not to decompose, like, is a losing battle. Like, this is decomposing over time if nothing's done, and really empathetic to the fact that the property owners have, as Essie mentioned, they keep trying to come up with other ways to do it. However, our mandate is for the historical character, and you said it, all of the comments, with the exception, the majority of the comments, I would say, are against this demolition approval. And so I'm frankly leaning that way, and it's just a horrible catch-22. We're forcing someone to keep a structure that's not safe because we don't have a good strategy to make it safe, financially. I don't know about this deal option.
I have an option that maybe, they've come to the board 3 times. This is their 3rd time. They paid the dues, they've gone through all the fuss. I'd be willing to allow continuance so that they would not have to pay. Is that not true?
Keep going.
So they would not have to pay for, if they're on the docket of the next meeting or the meeting after that, with the idea that they're going to keep the water tower, but not make it a public entranceway. So I just think that that's what I'd be willing to do, and I think it would save them some money for, the fees to be a part of this. And, they would have to consult with the structural engineer about how to reinforce the current structure.
That's correct.
Okay.
So, add one comment, the comments been made several times that we rejected this twice. We didn't really reject this twice because of the last 2 occasions, the whole issue of, I remember, the safety really did not get front and center. The issue last time was the view of what the replacement water tower looked like, which we did not like and would not accept. So to say it's come back 3 times, I think is a little bit inaccurate.
Yeah.
This is the time when it's come back with, I think, some real meat to it in terms of the fact that it is unsafe. That's the first time I've heard something with all the comments that's made me stop and think about this. So the 3 times is a little inconsistent. I would like someone, if possible, to resolve the debate that Justin and I have about whether the 55,000 includes massive replacement of stuff. I don't think it does. Do you think it does?
I think it's because of the word.
I know what the wording says. So is there anybody that understands how to divide that? Yes.
Yes, this is Liam. I guess there's another section in the report just above that says Mendo Lake Termite Control can perform all recommended treatments only as noted in this report. Repair prices are estimates only and do not include further conditions found during the repair process and must be completed by another. Mendo Lake Termite Control cannot guarantee contracted pricing and prices vary from company.
I don't think that tells me much. And then I wanted to just bring up this other invoice that was done for repair work of the structure. But this was 12 years ago. That it was by Scott Anderson. And he removed and replaced some rotted structural posts and diagonal members, remove and replace some rotted substructure, remove and replace some deckings. That's very clear. He's removing and replacing it. And he has the list of how much the lumber cost from Rossi's and the mill, and then his hourly wage, and the total comes to $5,538. So that was 12 years ago, so
He's a great
prices have gone
We
up.
did that work.
Yeah.
That work was done.
So,
That's
sorry, we're gonna keep it up here.
That's why I'm
Excuse
bringing
me,
it out.
I have something important to ask about your comments about Scott Anderson's bills. Will you look at the bottom of his invoice there? Might not be on that one, but where he says this tower is basically deteriorating and should be replaced.
Okay, I actually don't want,
Let's just keep it up here.
yes, and I think that the receipts were included to show that they have not done this. So, there was some suggestion that no maintenance had been done. They wanted to show that the receipts
I
were.
definitely see that, and I also see that it was 5,503.
That's a different time. So it sounds like, I don't know if anyone, okay. We wouldn't be if there's a motion for continuance, I don't know if you're interested in doing that, or if someone is interested in making a motion another way.
Well, I mean, it'd be interesting to hear what the applicant has to say about my continuance idea, if that's even in the realm of possibility, because that would cost money to talk to the structural engineer. So, I mean, I'm kind of set on that right now, and I don't know where my other board members sit. There's been no motion, but
To put a stairway and then.
to figure out a different way to access the restaurant.
Right, and keep the water, or.
Keep the water tower as a historical,
And just put another staircase somewhere.
somewhere else. The water tower does not get accessed by the public.
Part of that motion that you were potentially going to say, or wait for the action, is that there is an investigation in a way of waste making the tower safe.
Exactly, well, it's structurally sound to,
So it doesn't fall over.
yeah, exactly.
Which is, we only heard two ideas about how that might be done.
Okay, so I don't know, so, I don't know if you got all this, so the question for the applicant is, would you prefer that we continue this?
No.
Or would you prefer us to take an action?
An action.
And you would
Yes or
follow,
no?
yeah, and you would follow
We
your.
are coming up on 4 years dealing with this, and what Mr. Saunders said, yes, when we came before, we were proposing other structures, we wouldn't have been doing that except we already knew about the damage. And then Mr. Kepler, the last time we were here, questioned how much damage is there, and that's when we got the engineering report.
I agree with
So
you,
it's the same issue even, and this time, we just need to get the thing down, we'd like a yes or no, please.
Thank you for that.
So,
And thank you for trying to,
so I mean, she would not be interested in trying to keep the tower.
She doesn't want us, you don't want a stairway taken out of the tower.
No, she wants us to make a decision tonight on this matter.
She wants to probably go to the board of supervisors and have them vote, which takes a little bit of power out of us.
Yeah.
So that's where I still think we should have a continuance based on that. I mean, she just said she wants yes or no, but I still stand by my continuance and trying to make sure that the tower is checked to see if the tower can be sound.
I think so reasonable is the iconic location of this tower.
So the fact is that I can sense that it's not going their way. This is just my sense that there would be and maybe I'm wrong, but my sense from the board is that most likely it would be a denial of the permit to demolish. And the applicant, I mean, maybe that's not the case, but that's sort of my sense. The applicant is saying that they would like a decision, yes or no, so that they could move forward with their appeal process or move forward in any which way. And I tend to want to, because this is such a kind of no-win situation in many ways, I would lean towards the applicant's request for a yes or no.
So I mean,
That's no way
I
that it's
mean,
probably
question stuff. If we do a continuance, does that close off the route to appeal because we haven't made a decision? So even if we did a continuance, the applicant could still go and appeal to the board of supervisors and say, that's not good enough. I'm looking to stop.
Okay. So
Let me finish the question. So if we decided to do a continuance, the applicant could still go back to the board of supervisors. That's not good enough. I want a yes, no answer. Is that true or false?
No.
I need to have staff answer.
So the board can make a decision to continue a project to a date certain, and bring it back, just like what we've discussed. The board could say, so.
That's not my question. My question is, if we continue, could the applicant then go to the board of supervisors and appeal the continuance?
No.
There's no decision to appeal if it is a decision by this board to continue the project.
Okay, so there's no
And
appeal route,
to-
there's no appeal route till we do that.
And I kind of wanted to counter Holly, I mean, I just, yes,
And if it's to a date certain with the continuance, it is at no cost.
yes,
I understand that.
it's just, I don't want to put that power into the board of supervisors. We have the power to be able to control the life of this water tower. And I think that what I have offered is a reasonable solution to keep the tower and create a new staircase out in, my suggestion was behind the tower. Open up the restaurant there, create an entrance there. And I just don't, I don't think I'm gonna be persuaded on that. I don't want the power to go to the supervisors. I want the applicant to come back with their findings on that, so.
Even though the appeal would still go to the supervisor.
If we vote yes or no on it, I mean, what if they
It won't go now, it will go after we've gone through the process.
Can we make a resolution this evening to, this compromise kind of solution that Mr. Lopez that we
No, because there's no plans on what that would look like.
can't? So basically, if we kind of like that compromise idea, we should vote no, reject this.
So here's the thing, so someone could make a motion to continue it to a date certain, which is, the applicant said that that's what they prefer, but that motion could be made and seconded. The other option would be a motion to approve or deny. Those are sort of our options.
Okay, but if we continue, is that with the understanding that we've made this suggestion that?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, the suggestion is, Kelly, you had something to say?
Yeah, point of order, you cannot continue this without the applicant's permission. You have to go thumbs up or thumbs down. You cannot continue it, checking on that. You cannot. The applicant has to give approval. Because they can't appeal anything. If you say continue it, you can continue it till, hell freezes over.
Okay, good. Okay,
Well, coming out.
you guys are not gonna like this, but I might.
Well, let's just
You know what I mean?
Sorry, so this is where we're at. Staff is trying to find out if that is true, or if we're not able to make action. So we're just gonna pause for just a second. I don't know if I've done what this usually is. Okay, everybody, start.
I'm gonna read this.
This is your best.
Because I don't know that to be true, but I'm gonna go to the code. So, code section, division 3, division 3, section 20.760.055D. Action by the review board at the scheduled public hearing, which we're at, or at any other time to which said public hearing may be continued. The review board shall consider the application, shall hear and consider all arguments and evidence presented for or against the proposed project, and shall take action by a majority vote of the members of the review board present. Any one or a combination of the following 4 different actions may be made by each applicant. It states that it may be continued.
Oh, mine only says 3. You got an updated code on it. Sorry.
There's 4 findings of which a board can make action. And it says that at the public hearing, and it doesn't say, let's see, I'll read the 4 things. Make such findings and determination as is required by this chapter and approve the application. 1. Make such findings or determination as required by this chapter, including performance of, compliance with, changes, modifications, and conditions necessary to assure conformity with this chapter, the review board chapter, and required for approval of the application. 3, make such findings or determination as required by this chapter and deny the application if A, the application cannot be conditioned by adequate requirements to ensure compliance with the review board guidelines. B, the proposed development cannot be modified to conform to this chapter, or the proposed development would adversely affect a landmark. So, those are 3 findings for denying an application. There's also number 4 of that section, an applicant may withdraw any application prior to the review board's action of their request. The withdrawal must be in writing or stated on the record, which would need to be stated here verbally, recorded. Withdrawal would be effective immediately, is not subject to appeal, and shall be permanent except the applicant may file a new application, which gets them, which is not the same as a continue to a date certain.
But it doesn't say that the applicant, that we cannot continue with the
It
applicant.
does not say that you, there is the 180 day, a decision needs to be made, on 180 days of a complete application being submitted, and this application was submitted to our office on, we're probably close to say it, I'll look at that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Really quick here. This is Liam. I think maybe what Kelly might have been thinking of is later on in subsection F, and it has to do with the 180-day time period. In that section, it says, within 180 days of filing a complete application, the review board shall make such action as specified in the earlier subsections. The 180-day time period may be extended 90 days with the written consent of the applicant. If the review board does not act in the specified time period or extension thereof, the application shall be deemed approved.
And then can I just add to that too, more closer? Continuing is not an action like this one, though. It is
Right,
essentially, yeah.
Right, so they're wanting.
And that cannot be.
So if the applicant's not going to bring, if the applicant's not gonna bring an updated, request to fix the current structure, what's the point of continuing? I mean, I was hoping that they would be open to the idea of keeping the water tower, but they're not. Even though she said that she loved the water tower and she doesn't want it to go, but it has to go because it's unsafe. When we're trying to give you an option. To me, it's a little frustrating.
Yes.
But continuance doesn't really do anything other than just, delay the inevitable.
But that works in their favor.
I mean, not really, if the county, if the supervisors vote on it, if they, they're gonna have to spend $2,700 to $2,600 to go to supervisors. I mean, to me, it doesn't make any sense why they wouldn't want to pursue this, but.
Would someone like to make a
motion?
Motion on this.
this is with the bond.
So just sit there on
But the applicants of the pond were all into it. I'll make a motion to deny the. Yeah.
Okay, so there is a motion from Board Member Lopez to deny the application. Is there a second?
One second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. I think this needs a roll call vote, please.
Okay, so roll call vote for, application MHRB 2024-0009. The motion is to deny the project as proposed. And roll call vote is review board member Sanders.
No. And it's a very difficult decision. I have to comment, I personally would prefer to continue, to find some way to make the water tower safe. But if the applicant's not prepared to do that, there's no point in us suggesting things that they're not gonna take. So I think the answer is no.
No to this.
No to his motion. No
To deny.
No to deny. So in other words,
You support.
I support. I support the proposal to demolish the water tower. Let me put that here.
And Chair Madrigal?
Yes.
And, Review Board Member Herbert?
I support the motion to deny.
And Lopez?
I support the motion, and I wanted to put it on record that I just wish that the applicant was open to, yeah, because what they propose is it is not a suitable fix, and not once have they talked about. Do you guys have any ideas of how we could potentially change it? Do you have any ideas of, ways that you guys might want to improve? They're jet set on doing what they want to do, and that's kind of, so, go ahead.
So for the record, the vote to deny the project is 3-1 with an approval to deny the project. For the record, this action made by the review board today is appealable to the Board of Supervisors, and there is a 10-day appeal period. And there is an appeal process that is required, and there are fees required for appeal processes.
Okay, thank you, and thank you everyone for being so respectful. I appreciate that. I'm gonna take just like a 5-minute break so that.
Can we just close it up?
Get that to long enough. Okay, item number 11. Oh, maybe it's really is it. So you're right, totally should have done.
With all that chatter, I wrote, it's not on the agenda, but I sent out an email about California State, California, oh gosh, Environmental Quality Act about, information for the workshop tomorrow. I couldn't make a flyer for that, but I did send it out to quite a few different people, blind copied, and there is another workshop, I believe it is tomorrow night at 5 to 6. And it is about residential and commercial structures. I'm corresponding with the Office of Historical Resources, and I worry about that. The State Historic Rehabilitation Tax Credit Program, I'm corresponding with them about sites that are in the Mendocino to make sure that if somebody says, how do I find out if I'm on that California historical list or the national list, I'm working with the state agency, so if people approach you, please feel free to forward them to my attention, you can give them my contact information, because
You cover Fort Bragg as well?
it's about a historical resource that's on the California or historical list. If we're not on the list, then you don't qualify number 1, and then the minimum project valuation in a financial perspective is a minimum of $25,000. So you need to show that your project is of that much money.
So how do I find out if a building is on the list?
So I'm working with them, their workshop has great information about the application and that, and Alan, feel free to email me or to review the links in the email that I
I'm
already.
gonna go to that thing tomorrow, but, I have a very specific personal.
You'll let us know if we
It
get
was-
some tax breaks.
It was a very good, workshop, and I wasn't able to get clear scope of which historical lists different buildings are on, so I'm working with the state office right now.
I have a personal interest in the building in Fort Bragg.
Yes.
Is,
So just for the record, that, was very helpful.
Yeah.
Okay. And it is tomorrow at 5 p.m.
And I think think this one is also.
I'm gonna be there.
The
You
water,
guys should all be there.
Yeah, no, I.
So I don't know if they're gonna be able to fit this. Great.
Okay,
All right.
could I get a motion to adjourn? Yes. We need a motion for that. Could I get a motion to adjourn?
Yes. Yes.
That was Saunders. All those in favor?
Aye.
And we're adjourning at 8:35.
Thank you, Liam, for joining us today.
Yeah. Saunders.
Yeah, I know.